Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, January 11th. I'm Aryeh O'Sullivan, and this is IBA News, broadcasting from Jerusalem. A general strike was declared today in the Arab sector to protest Tuesday's demolition of 11 illegally built homes in the Arab town of Kalansa, located in the center of the country. The High Follow-Up Committee for Arab Cities in Israel, an umbrella group representing the community, called a strike in all Arab local authorities, businesses, and schools, and the mayor of Kalansa resigned. The house demolitions were harshly criticized by the Joint Arab List Party, which called the move a declaration of war against the residents of Kalansa and the Arab public. The party issued a statement that the homes were destroyed now due to the impending evacuation of the illegal West Bank outpost of Amona ordered by the High Court. Arab leaders accused the government of trying to show that it is equally applying and enforcing laws inside Israel by cracking down on illegal Arab construction. The statement went on to say that the demolition is an attempt by the Prime Minister to deflect attention from the ongoing corruption investigation against him. For its part, the government claims that the homes demolished yesterday were built without permits on agricultural land. Reports are circulating that Qatar is mediating between Israel and Hamas in order to facilitate the return of the bodies of two soldiers killed in the Gaza War of 2014, Lieutenant Hadar Golden and Oren Shaul, as well as the release of Avera Mengistu, who strayed into Gaza in September 2015. This in exchange for the release of some 60 prisoners held by Israel. The Nazareth-based Israeli Arab weekly Kul al-Arab reported that Israel agreed to release the prisoners provided that they are deported to Gaza or Qatar. There has been no official confirmation from any of the sides. Meanwhile, Qatar has reportedly decided to build an embassy in the Gaza Strip. According to the Man news site, Qatar, which is a prominent backer of Hamas, would have the first and only embassy in Gaza. Some analysts say it is a signal that Qatar holds the coastal strip as a national entity separate from the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. The High Court of Justice hinted today that it may rule in favor of allowing women to read from the Torah at the women's section of the Western Wall Plaza. In an interim injunction released today, the High Court instructed primary opponents, including the administrator of the Western Wall, the Prime Minister's office, and the Religious Services Ministry, which are against the idea, to lay out their objections. The court said opponents must specifically explain why the petitioners should not be permitted to pray in accordance with their custom at the traditional plaza, or alternatively allow them to pray at a place which has access to the wall. The court gave opponents 30 days to respond. In its interim injunction, the court strongly hinted that respondents should implement the Western Wall resolution previously approved by the cabinet, and stated the pluralist prayer section at the Robinson's Arch does not constitute an equal alternative to the central wall sections because it lacks full access to the place of worship. Head of the reform movement, Rabbi Gilad Kariv, said today that the High Court sent a clear message that the policy of discrimination at the site must come to an end. The Knesset today approved the preliminary reading of the so-called Breaking the Silence bill aimed at preventing the leftist NGO Breaking the Silence from publicly speaking at schools. The proposed legislation, spearheaded by Education Minister Naftali Bennett of the Jewish Home Party, bans specific organizations or individuals who are deemed as undermining the educational goals or harming IDF soldiers from speaking in front of students. The bill was initially passed following a stormy debate at the plenum. Yesh Atid Chairman MK Yair Lapid, who supports the law, lashed out at its opponents, particularly members of the Meretz Party, who disrupted his address and were forced to leave the plenum. A truck driver from Rahat convicted of killing 7 people in a traffic accident 4 years ago was today sentenced to 4 years in prison. The Haifa District Court ruled today that the driver, Jamal Abu Siyam, ignored warning signs of a major brakes failure in his truck and knowingly drove down a steep road. The truck crashed into 8 private vehicles, killing 7 drivers and passengers. Defense Minister Victor Lieberman told supporters of Sergeant Elar Azaria, who was last week convicted of manslaughter for shooting a neutralized terrorist, that if they really want to help him, they should sit quietly and stop making a ruckus. Lieberman wrote the comments on his Facebook page in response to hundreds of inquiries and comments from the public. Meanwhile, the soldiers' attorneys have come out against reported offers by Azaria's former brigade commander, who suggested that his parents met with the heads of IDF manpower and Central Command in order to work out a lighter punishment for their son. Sentencing arguments are set for Sunday, January 15th, with sentencing expected within 1 month's time. The maximum manslaughter sentence is 20 years in prison, but there is a strong possibility that the sentence will be much less in light of the circumstances surrounding the affair. With less than 10 days to go before he steps into office, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has found himself embroiled in yet another controversy. American media outlets are reporting that Russian operatives claim to have so-called compromising personal and financial information on Trump. Intelligence chiefs reportedly informed Trump of these findings, presenting him with a 2-page synopsis of the potential embarrassment for the incoming president. This, along with a classified briefing that gave him an alleged Russian interference in the presidential election. Trump quickly lashed out at the reports in his personal Twitter account, calling them fake news and a total political witch hunt. Russia also denied the allegations. A Kremlin spokesman said today that the document was an absolute fabrication. Presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Russia had no such compromising material on Trump and that the document was a hoax intended to further damage U.S.-Russian relations. The election of Donald Trump as a president has created divisions in American society. Even the Jewish community was not immune to this, as we see in this report. Rage, anger, and sadness. The U.S. presidential election campaign was highly emotive, and even after Donald Trump has been elected and reality sets in, America remains divided. Even in the Jewish community, there are scars.
I did have a situation after the election where I made a particular statement, and somebody that I was at kind of a group dinner with got up from the table and excused themselves and went to the bathroom. And I asked whether it was something that I had said, and in fact it was.
Xander Wold is a student at Columbia University. He says he went against the current and voted for Trump. He says he felt hostility from his friends.
People just were like kind of like shocked, like how could you like think this or support something like this? And just the way that I see politics is I don't necessarily vote for someone who I think's going to be my moral guide.
He is not alone. Some felt the price for supporting Trump personally.
On Facebook and social media, I did experience some, sort of hostility, so to speak.
More than a month after the elections, dozens have gathered at the Manhattan Jewish Experience to work it out.
I think healing is important, and a lot of people are looking for ways to come back together.
Here, Rabbi Mark Wilds had a message regarding the elections.
I've been studying Talmud since I'm 10 years old, almost every day, and I have yet to see a debate in the Talmud where one person who's arguing against the other calls them a name or starts to personalize the argument. The best way to arrive at the truth is to have two opposing forces.
It may not be easy, but he suggests, as a first step toward reconciliation, to refriend those who unfriended you on Facebook. In a gesture of solidarity with Israel and the victims of Sunday's truck ramming terror attack in Jerusalem, an image of the Israeli flag was projected last night on the Paris City Hall. Mayor Anne Hidalgo announced the initiative following similar expressions of solidarity in Berlin, which on Monday lit up its iconic Brandenburg Gate with the colors of the Israeli flag, and the Dutch city of Rotterdam, which flew an Israeli flag at half-mast on top of the city hall. In finance, shares were mixed in trading, and the shekel was also mixed in foreign currency trading. Here are the late afternoon numbers. Turning to the weather, and tomorrow is expected to be a little warmer with a chance of showers in the north of the country. Here are the expected highs and lows at home and abroad for the next 24 hours. That's all for today. Please join us again tomorrow when Laura Cornfield will be at this desk to bring you the latest news from Israel. Until then, I'm Aryeh O'Sullivan, wishing you a good evening and shalom from Jerusalem.